Please lie on your front. Please, yeah, I'm sorry, it's just after lunch, I know, but you won't be here for very long, I promise. You won't be here for very long. Oh, I feel bad. I feel like I shouldn't be making you do this. Your intent has landed. Please lie on your back. Please lie on your back. Lie on your back. No, there's been enough groans in the room. Yeah, lie on your back. It's fine. Not really. Why not? Lie on your back. Bend both of your legs. Stand your feet. No, you don't have to be quiet. That's fine. You can joke away. That's good. I don't mind. Bend both of your legs. Stand your feet. Bend both of your arms. Stand your hands. And now, just take the back of your head through the gap under the right arm. And I think all of you now are familiar with this Feldenkrais jargon that we kind of use, these assumptions that we make when we utter these kinds of invitations. Even though I said take your head through the gap, I don't mean that you must take your head through the gap. I just mean that that's a general form that you intend to do, however big or small you make it. Now, pay close attention to how you form yourself to do that, especially after that lesson before lunch, where you became more and more articulated. Which is a really strange way of talking, because you were articulated before lunch. You've been articulated since the day you've been born. So that's a really strange way of talking. Good, now stop and introduce the back of your head to the gap. Hello, back of head, this is gap. Hello, gap, this is back of head. A formal introduction. Go, return, go, return. And please continue, take the back of your head towards the right gap, take the back of your head towards the left gap, preferably at different times. Just in case you weren't sure. That's good. Great. Let that be. Pause for a little bit. Now, there is a reason why in this particular lesson, Feldenkrais has you flipping from sometimes doing this gap movement on your front and sometimes doing it on your back. When you're doing this movement on your back, you're using primarily the muscles that wrap around the back of you and come a little bit around to the front. Yeah, that's the kind of muscle sheets that you're using, the kind of on the back surfaces. When you're lying on your front, then it's the opposite way around. You actually create those turning, twisting shapes by using mostly the muscles that wrap around the front of you. So by changing position back and forth, you start to balance that whole muscular cylinder around your trunk. Please bend your legs, stand your feet, and bend your arms, stand your hands. And with your limbs in this configuration, just a little bit, lift both shoulders from the floor. And then put them down. And then just a little bit, lift your head from the floor. And put it down. And alternate. Lift the shoulders a little bit. Put them down. Lift the head a little bit. Put it down. And this is where it's really important that your head is at the right relationship with the rest of your trunk. If it's not, the sensation of lifting your head will feel quite effortful. So if you need something to put underneath your head and you don't have it close by, just put up your hand, I'll bring over something. Yeah? Okay. You need just a little bit, I think. Yeah, towel, just a second. So try this for a start. And then if you need to make it a bit thicker, make it a bit thicker. Just a towel between your hands here. There we go. Let's try that. See how you go. Better? Yeah. Now lift both shoulders and the head. Doesn't have to be simultaneously, but eventually have them both lifted and then put them both down again. Both shoulders and the head. Leave the chest on the floor. Aha. Leave the chest on the floor. You've already discovered that the shoulder blades are very independent of the chest. Can you find that independence now? And you've also discovered that the shoulders are independent of the head. So now lift the shoulders and the head. Return the head to the floor, keep the shoulders lifted. Lift the head, return the shoulders to the floor. Lift the shoulders, return the head to the floor. Lift the head, return the shoulders to the floor. Go back and forth like that. As much as you can, let the rest of your chest be quiet. Don't do any, hard work in the muscles there. And if you go delicately enough, slowly enough, you'll start to discover the independence of the shoulder blades from the head and the chest in this very unusual configuration of the arms. That's called differentiating. Revealing the freedom, the independence that was always there. It's always been there. But it sometimes disappears when you're doing something that is unfamiliar. Your hands remain on the ground. No, really. However, if that's not possible for you at this moment, as you take your shoulders forwards, also lift the hands. What? I said, if it's not possible for you to keep your hands on the ground for you at this moment, as you take the shoulders forwards, let the palms lift from the ground. And then if you let that be for a little while, you might discover the independence of the shoulders, and then the palm can remain on the ground. Stop a moment, pause. Let's see if we can get the lifting of the head to be a little bit more free, effortless. Bend both of your legs, stand your feet. Bend both of your arms, stand your legs. Your hands. Stand your hands. That was me being thoughtless for a moment. Now, lift your head from the floor and put it down. Just that. Lift the head, put it down. And you've heard already several times in the last 10 days this notion that your head is a very differentiated place, not just structurally, but perceptually. The intent remains the same, to lift your head, but could you lead your head into a lift by protruding your lips? Yeah? Lead your head into a lift by protruding your lips, as if you wanted to kind of nibble on something. I'll do the sound effects of that. Yeah? And probably, Philippa, now would be a good time to bring over a mint, don't you think? I could just put it right there in front of your lips and you can go, mint, mint, mint. And because the mint is so strong in its scent, it kind of gives you a direction in space to go in. This is a very abstract movement you're doing now, but you can try this at home. Take a piece of favorite food, hold it, get someone else to hold it just in front of your lips, somewhere near your nose, and you'll know where that food is, and then reach for it with your lips. Not to bite it, not to snatch it, but just to touch it. Just to touch, to explore the flavor of the food with your lips. And you'll find that your head lifts without you having to think about it. Now, let that be, and now imagine that same piece of delicious food, your favorite piece of food, hopefully it's not in liquid form, yeah? And now you want to reach with your tongue to taste it. And it's just out of reach. If your head stays on the floor, you'd have to strain with your tongue. So can you reach with the tongue and let your tongue guide the lifting of your head, which means your jaw will have to open and you will have to protrude your tongue. And at this moment, I'm not looking at anybody. And everybody else has their eyes closed, more or less, so no one's looking at you. I promise I'm really not looking at you. So please feel free to protrude your tongue. Now, if your tongue can reach that object, perhaps your lips can get there too. So it's like tongue, lips. Tongue, lips. Yeah. Sound effects help, by the way. At least in my case. Okay. Okay, let that be, and now just simply lift your head. Notice if it's a little lighter. Whether you have a different sense of how to go about lifting your head. Good. Pause, let that be. Remain lying on your back. Bring your left leg to standing. Have your right arm long on the floor above your head with the back of the hand resting on the floor. It doesn't matter whether the elbow is bent or not. But what is important is the location of the hand relative to your head. Have it somewhere on the floor where you know it's above your head. And have also the right leg long. Yep. So the right leg's long, the right arm's above your head, the left leg's bent standing. Great. And now in this position, do a little bit what you did just before lunch. Press the back of the right hand, release, the right wrist, release, the right shoulder, release, the right side of the chest, release, the right hip, release, the right knee, release, the right heel, release. Go up and down, back and forth like that, many, many, many times. So through the right side. And now stop and make a slight change in your configuration. Turn your head, move your head, lift that left hip in such a way that your nose can point directly to your right hand. Yeah, so lift the left hip, turn the head, tilt the head backwards until you can point your nose in the direction of your right hand. And now stay in that position and make that same rippling movement that you just made. Right hand, press, release. Right wrist, press, release. Right shoulder, press, release. Right chest, press, release. Right hip, press, release. Right knee, press, release. Right heel, press, release. Find a good place for that left hand. Someplace that it doesn't act like an anchor. Yeah. Because if you leave the hand behind, it kind of like holds you back, literally. So find a place for that left arm where you don't feel that it's tugging you back, it's holding you back. That's enough. Please stop. Rest. Yes, I did mean that. Rest. For some of you, that is quite a position to hold for that amount of time. Pay attention to the sensation of the chest that you have. Now, when I say chest, where does your mind go? Does it go to the front of you? Is that your idea of chest? Does it go behind you? Does it go also to the sides? What about up near the neck? Because the chest is up there. Do your mind goes there? Does it go there? What about below? Because your chest really doesn't finish until almost at the top of your hip bone. So can you keep as much of your chest in your mind as possible? And as you bear your chest in mind, bend your right leg, stand your right foot, and just from that little variation, feel, has your chest changed shape? Is it leaning on the floor differently? And now place the right hand on the floor above your head. Has your chest changed shape? Are the ribs a different shape? Is it lying on the floor differently? Lower your right arm, put it down beside you. Put the left hand on the floor above your head. Does your chest change shape? Do the ribs come into a different relationship to each other? Especially the ribs in relationship to the hip bones. Now, stay with that left hand above your head and start to make that rippling movement from your hand all the way through you to the left heel, many, many times. And if you'd like to, you can track how these rippling motions that you're making change the shape of your chest, your rib cage. And you can also track how with each different ripple, different ribs come into more or less contact with the floor. Now, pause. Place the palm of your right hand on the front of your left shoulder. And now, using your right leg for a little bit of power, turn and tilt your head so that your nose points towards your left hand. And stay there with your nose pointing towards your hand. And again, start to make that rippling motion throughout the length of your left side. And notice your ribs are now in a very different shape, in a very different setup. And you might find that now the ribs move in a very different relationship, not only to your hips, but also to each other. When there's like this twist, this turn through you, probably more accurate to call it a spiral. That's enough. Let that be. So all these little variations that you've just done, lifting the shoulders, lifting the head, alternating, doing the little ripples, changing, making that little spiral through the rib cage, these are all little variations that in some way relate to the taking of the back of your head through the gap. They're like little bits of a jigsaw puzzle. And, you know, when you keep on taking those bits of the jigsaw puzzle and you assemble them together, oh, the whole thing appears. Oh, yes, it's the seaside down at Anglesey. My wife just finished many months of doing a jigsaw puzzle. I think it had 5,000 pieces. And it was the seaside down at Anglesey. You know how many shades of blue there are? Oh, she was pulling out her hair. Oh, my God. But you don't have to pull out your hair, even though you only have 24 ribs. Please, bend your legs, stand your feet, bend your arms, stand your hands. And begin to take the back of your head towards the gap under the right arm, return, and then towards the gap under the left arm, and return. Notice how the ribs change shape. Notice how you come to lean a little bit more on one side, and then you come to lean a little bit more on the other side. And as your head goes in that general direction of going through the gap, potentially your eyes could come to rest looking at one of your wrists. Now, rather than making the movement bigger, make it smaller. Make it smaller and still have clear in your mind the intention you're performing. I tend to like more the word enacting, but some people think I'm philosophizing. So whatever word you want, enacting, performing, doing, I don't mind. So there's the clarity of the form of the intention, and you make it even smaller. The head is still heading for the gap, such that you could see your wrist, and you make it even smaller. And please keep making your intention, your enactment of the intention smaller and smaller and smaller until it almost shrinks into a thought. So, you know, back in ancient Greece, there were a lot of clever dudes and a lot of clever dudesses, but they didn't get much press, unfortunately. Yeah. And Pythagoras was one of these dudes. He came up with a lot of good ideas. But there was this belief in Greece that, you know, the geometric shapes that we have, triangles, squares, rectangles, that these aren't creations of human minds. These shapes exist in a different domain, in a different space. And they're out there in this place called the the domain of shapes. And somehow, with our minds, we reach out and we go, oh, there's that and there's that. So you're almost thinking a bit like Pythagoras here. There's a definite shape and form to this, but you're reducing it to the bare thought. The domain of forms, it just came back to me. Yeah, that there is this plane where pure forms exist, triangles, where mathematics exists. Now, keep on doing these small movements and get a little faster. But of course, increase the speed only as much as you can stay in contact mentally and physically with the form of what you're doing. And then get a little faster. Faster. Faster still. Until you get to that place where you're going the fastest, where you could not go any faster and still keep in contact with the form of what you're doing. And for some of you, that will be really fast, really fast. You'll feel your eyes flicking, the muscles in your trunk kind of flickering. And then once you've connected with the level of speed that you want, go ahead and make the movement a little bit bigger. Because you'll find that when you really connect with the form of the intent very precisely, that it won't feel like much more effort to go a little bigger. Because everything's perfectly coordinated. Nice, 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 nice. And I'm saying nice about the movement. When I look at you now, I can see you understand the form. You understand how the intent is being enacted. You're not doing something else. That's what I'm saying nice about. That's enough. Please stop. Now that's been a lot of work for your extensors, hasn't it? And some of you might feel after doing that a little bit arched away from the floor. I don't know. But what I do know is once you develop this skill of being really closely connected with the form of your intent and how to enact it, that enables you to enact all sorts of different intents much more quickly because you have a way of approaching it that kind of works. And I'm saying that as a lead-in to asking you to roll onto your tummy and promising to you that you won't be there for very long. Have both legs long have your arms in a push-ups position. And remember, there is that special configuration where you could, if you wanted to, just flop one elbow onto the floor or the elbow onto the floor. Remember something about that? Where the hands can be, the direction the fingers are pointing. And now, start to think of taking your nose into the gap underneath the left arm, return, and then underneath the right arm. Now, the shape of this movement, the form of it, is exactly the same as the form that you were just doing lying on your back. There's a slight turn, lowering of the head. There's a slight spiraling through the trunk. It's just that in this position, one leg tends to want to come up. Let it come up. Matter of fact, you could intentionally bring it up, which will make the lifting, the movement of the head even lighter. And if the movement gets lighter, there's something special that happens with your arms. If you start to generate the power in the pelvis, which then moves the leg, your need to use your arms to push reduces. Some of you might find that you hardly have to push with your arms at all. One leg gets drawn up, and then it lengthens, and the other leg gets drawn up. Usually it's the leg to the gap to which you're directing your nose. So if your head's going to the left, it's usually the left leg that gets drawn up. If it's to the right, it's the right leg. And your pelvis rolls. Now go a little faster. Faster and bigger. Faster and bigger. Faster and bigger. Yep, we're going to go to commando school. Yes, faster and bigger, you green berets. Come on. Go for it. Yay, cool. Now, smaller, 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 smaller. Secret Service. Smaller, smaller, smaller until it's just a thought. But you know, thoughts are threaded all the way through your body. Gee, I think that's the first time I've ever said that. Thank you very much. Without you, I wouldn't have said that. Thoughts are really threaded through your body, through the nervous system. Even the smallest thought has a twitch of muscle associated with it. That was Feldenkrais's belief. Even the smallest thought fires off little small motor units. Your brain is just part of your nervous system. Yeah, it's your nervous system. I think. Who's that guy? Dan Siegel. Do you know Dan? The author Dan Siegel. Yeah, Dan Siegel puts it like this: you have a big brain, which is your whole nervous system, and then you have the brain that's in your head. That's the smaller portion. And I thought, yeah, that's a nice way of saying it, actually. You have a big brain, and then you have a brain that's only a small part of the big brain located in your cranium. So now, make it small and really fast. Small and really fast. So here's another belief. So I've just told you one belief of Feldenkrais. Here's another belief. You can only move as fast as you can think it. You can only move as fast as you can think it. That the speed of motion is restricted by your capacity to clearly think it. And I don't mean the kind of thinking that we do, conceptual thinking. I'd call it kind of organic, bodily thinking. Once you get clear, once that organic thinking gets really clear, precise, once the form is clear, precise, you can go really fast. Go really fast in your thought. Build it up. And then, once you're thinking clearly and fast, okay, see if I can get faster, making the movement bigger, but with less effort. That's called elegance. That's Feldenkrais's definition of elegance. Elegance is doing only that which is required. Nothing else. And you know, scientists talk about their theories in terms of elegance. Oh, that's such an elegant theory. Mathematicians talk about their mathematical equations in terms of elegance. Oh, that's an elegant solution to that mathematical problem. Never thought it could be that simple. You're doing the same thing now. All right. Roll onto your back and rest, please. So remember the two beliefs? You can only act as fast as you can think. And the other belief is that even the smallest thought is connected with some twitching muscle. That second belief was kind of semi-proved by one of the graduates of the training that I was in who worked at Lincoln, Mary Galea. She's a neuroanatomist. And she did a whole bunch of really detailed anatomical work looking for neural tracts that go from the brain down the spinal cord and collect to the musculature in the fore part of the brain, in the forebrain. And in neuroscience, the forebrain is associated with planning. This is where you do all your forward planning. This is what it's about to happen, and this is the scene at which will happen, the timing of it, the shape of it. All of that's in the forebrain. Anyway, to cut a long story short, she found anatomical connection. She found that already in the forebrain, there were little motor cells that sort of crept down and were priming the whole system in preparation for the final big switch to the action. And it's like, wow, there is anatomical connection. There is a link between planning and those muscles. I was really impressed. That was great. Please roll to one side, come up to stand. Feel what it's like to stand. And if you want to relate some of this to the lesson, to the actual form of the lesson, of course, you know, there isn't just a horizon. There isn't just this flat thing. You know, things get interesting up there and things get interesting down there. And you see, if you start to look up in these directions, can you feel the shape that you make? When your head's off to one side, can you feel how the back of the head goes towards the floor? And then when you look down with your face, there's the same curve. It still exists. All right. So maybe we should, I think Kevin said something the other day about aircraft pilots and being in that kind of half a sphere and things being projected so that they can get a sense of training, where things are coming from. Imagine if they had computer screens like that. If the computer screen wasn't just there, but it was all around and you had to go, yep, got that. Yeah, just take the mask over there. You'd all have a very different chest and you'd all have a very different spine. Yeah. Not bad. Good. There we go. A way of raising money. Yes, we are breaking. Bye-bye.